The next topic is pituitary gland. What is pituitary gland? Pituitary gland or hypophysis. It is a small endocrine gland that is situated in the depression known as sella turcica. So where is sella turcica present? It is present in the sphenoid bone at the base of skull, and it is connected with the hypothalamus by pituitary stalk or the hypophyseal stalk. We divide pituitary gland into two divisions. One is the anterior pituitary, that is known as adenohypophysis, and posterior neurophysis. So between the two divisions there is small avascular structure that is pars intermedia. Actually it is a part of anterior pituitary gland. Now let us discuss the development of the pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary gland, it is ectodermal in origin, and it originates from the pharyngeal epithelium as a upward growth known as Rathke pouch, whereas the posterior pituitary, it is neuroectodermal in origin. It arises from the hypothalamus as a downward diverticulum. The relation between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, it is known as hypothalamo-hypophyseal relationship. The hormones that are secreted by the hypothalamus, they are transported to the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. The hormones from the hypothalamus, they are transported to anterior pituitary through the hypothalamus hypophyseal portal blood vessels, and the hormones from the hypothalamus to posterior pituitary, they are transported by the nerve fibers of hypothalamus hypophyseal tract. Coming to the anterior pituitary, it is the master gland as it regulates many other endocrine glands through its hormone. The anterior pituitary, it is composed of three parts: pars distalis, pars tubralis, and pars intermedia. There are two types of cells that are present and have different staining properties. One are the chromophobe cells, other are the chromophil cells. The chromophobe cells will not possess any granules and will stain poorly. These cells are 50% of the total cells in the anterior pituitary, whereas the chromophil cells, they contain large number of granules and are darkly stained. What are the type of chromophil cells? So we divide these cells on the basis of staining property. They can be alpha cells, that are the acidophilic cells, and the basophilic cells, that is the beta cells. We also classify on the basis of the secretory nature. On the basis of secretory nature, we divide the chromophil cells into 5 types. Somatotropes, corticotropes, thyrotropes, gonadotropes, and lectotropes. So somatotropes will secrete which hormone? Growth hormone. The corticotropes will secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone. The thyrotropes will secrete thyroid stimulating hormone. The gonadotropes will secrete FSH and LH hormone. And lectotropes will secrete prolactin. The somatotropes and lectotropes, they are acidophilic in nature, whereas the other cells, they are basophilic. As we know, the pituitary glands that secrete large amount of human growth hormone are known as acidophilic tumors. As somatotropes and lectotropes, they are acidophilic cells. Now let us discuss the regulation of anterior pituitary secretion. The hypothalamus, what it do is it controls the anterior pituitary by secreting the releasing and inhibitory hormones that are known as neurohormones. So what are those releasing and inhibitory hormones? The growth hormone releasing hormone will stimulate the release of growth hormone. The growth hormone releasing polypeptide will stimulate the release of growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone, whereas the inhibitory hormone will inhibit the growth hormone. What are the hormones that are secreted by anterior pituitary? Growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, ACTH, FH, LH, prolactin. The first is the growth hormone. The growth hormone, it is secreted by somatotropes, that are the acidophilic cells of the anterior pituitary. The growth hormone is protein in nature. The growth hormone, what is the action of growth hormone? It is responsible for general growth of body. The hypersecretion of growth hormone will cause enormous growth of the body that will lead to gigantism, whereas the deficiency of growth hormone will cause retarded growth or stunted growth that will lead to dwarfism. The growth hormone, it is responsible for the growth of all tissues of body that are capable of growing. So growth occurs by increase in the size and number of the cells by the mitotic activity. So growth hormone will have action on the major type of foodstuffs via proteins, fats and carbohydrates. The growth hormone will increase the synthesis of protein. There will be mobilization of fats and conservation of the carbohydrate. So it accelerates the synthesis of protein. The concentration of amino acid in cells will increase. So that will cause increase, that will accelerate the synthesis of protein. There will be increased RNA translation. So because of this, the ribosomes will be activated and more proteins will be synthesized. There is the growth hormone increase the transcription of the DNA to RNA. That there is increase in the transcription of DNA to RNA that will cause the increase in the synthesis of the protein cells. The growth hormone inhibit the breakdown of protein, so that will help in building up of tissues. Other feature of growth hormone is it mobilizes the fat from the adipose tissue. So if the fat mobilized from the adipose tissue, the concentration of this fatty acid will increase in the body fluid. So these fatty acids, they will be used for production of energy by the cells, and the proteins will be spared. So that is how it will accelerate the synthesis of protein. So during the utilization of fatty acid, what you will see is there will be increase in a lot of acidoacetic acid that is produced by liver, and it is relieved in the body fluid. So if there is increase in acetoacetic acid, that will lead to ketosis. So the excess mobilization of fat from the adipose tissue, that will cause the accumulation of the fat in the liver, that can result in the fatty liver. Other important feature of growth hormone is conservation of the glucose. So there will be decrease in the peripheral utilization of glucose for the production of energy. So there will be conservation of the glucose. Also there is increase in the deposition of glycogen in the cells. So since the glucose is not utilized for energy, it is converted into glycogen and deposited in the cells. As the glycogen deposition increases, the cells become saturated with the glycogen. So by this, no more glucose can enter the cell from the blood. So the blood glucose level will increase. So if the blood glucose level increases, that will cause stimulation of beta cells in the islet of Langerhans in the pancreas and increase the secretion of insulin. So because of excess stimulation, the beta cells, they are burned out at one stage, that will cause deficiency of insulin, leading to true diabetic mellitus. So this effect of growth hormone is the diabetogenic effect. Growth hormone is responsible for development of the bone cells. It increases the growth of skeleton. That is, it increases both the length and the thickness of the bone. The growth hormone stimulates the liver to secrete somatomedin. Somatomedin, it is substance through which the growth hormone will act. Somatomedin, there are two types: IGF-I, that is also known as somatomedin C, or insulin-like growth factor. So this somatomedin C will act through the second messenger, that is known as cyclic CAMP. Now, what are the factors that stimulate growth hormones? So that is important for your exam point of view. You can get a question. Recently, the question was asked in your AIMS INICET exam. The growth hormone, it is stimulated by remember hypoglycemia, fasting, starvation, exercise, stress, initial stages of sleep. So these are the factors that stimulates the growth hormone. The growth hormone, it is inhibited by hyperglycemia, increase in the free fatty acid in the blood, and later stages of the sleep. The hypothalamus, it regulates the growth hormone via three hormones. What are those? Number one is the growth hormone releasing hormone, that increases the growth hormone secretion by stimulating somatotroph of anterior pituitary. Second is the growth hormone releasing polypeptide. It increases the release of growth hormone releasing hormones from the hypothalamus and growth hormone from the pituitary. Third is the growth hormone inhibitory hormone, or somatostatin. It decreases the growth hormone secretion. The somatostatin, it is also secreted by delta cells of islet of Langerhans that are present in the pancreas. The growth hormone secretion is under negative feedback. As we know that hypothalamus, it will release growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone releasing polypeptide, that will promote the release of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. It also activates the liver cells to secrete somatomedin C. The somatomedin C, it increases the release of growth hormone inhibitory hormone from the hypothalamus. So this inhibitory hormone will inhibit the release of growth hormone from the pituitary. The somatomedin, it also inhibits the release of polypeptide, growth hormone releasing polypeptide from the hypothalamus, and there will be inhibition of the secretion of growth hormone. So growth hormone inhibits its own secretion by stimulating the release of growth hormone inhibitory hormone from the hypothalamus. So this is short loop feedback control. So when the blood level of growth hormone decreases, the growth hormone releasing hormone, it is secreted from the hypothalamus, that will cause secretion of growth hormone from the pituitary. Remember ghrelin, it is a peptide that is synthesized by epithelial cells in the fundus of stomach. It is produced in smaller amount in hypothalamus, pituitary, kidney and placenta. It promotes the secretion of growth hormone by stimulating somatotroph directly. Other hormones that are secreted by anterior pituitary gland, they are the thyroid stimulating hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone is required for the growth of the thyroid gland. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is required for the structural integrity and secretory activity of the adrenal cortex. The follicular stimulating hormone, the follicular In the males, the follicular stimulating hormone act along with the testosterone, and it accelerates the process of spermiogenesis. What is the function of FSH in females? It causes the development of Graafian follicles from the primordial follicles. It stimulates the theca cells of the Graafian follicles and causes the secretion of the estrogen. LH hormone in the male, it is known as interstitial cell stimulating hormone because it stimulates the interstitial cells of Leydig in the testes. In the female, it will cause maturation of vesicles, follicles in the Graafian follicles, induces the synthesis of androgens from the theca cells, and is mainly responsible for the ovulation. So it is necessary for the formation of corpus luteum and activates the secretory function of corpus luteum. Prolactin. The prolactin acts directly on the epithelial cells of the mammary glands. Beta-tropin, it mobilizes the fat from the adipose tissue and promotes lipolysis. Now coming to the posterior pituitary or the neurohypophysis. What are the parts of the posterior pituitary gland? Three parts: pars nervosa, that is the infundibulum process. Second is the neural stalk. Third is the median eminence. The pars tuberalis of the anterior pituitary and the neural stalk, they together form the hypophyseal stalk. The posterior pituitary is made up of neural type of cells that are known as pituocytes. The pituocytes, they are derived from the glial cells. What are the hormones that are produced by the posterior pituitary? They are the ADH, antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin. And second is the oxytocin. The posterior pituitary does not secrete any hormone. ADH and oxytocin, they are synthesized in the hypothalamus. So from the hypothalamus, these hormones are transported to posterior pituitary through the nerve fibers of the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So in the posterior pituitary, these hormones will be stored at where? At the nerve endings. So that is why they are known as neurohormones. So first is the antidiuretic hormone. It is mainly secreted by the supraoptic nucleus of hypothalamus. ADH, it is secreted by the supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus and is secreted by the paraventricular nucleus in the smaller quantity. What are the two functions of ADH? Retention of water and vasopressor action. So it causes retention of the water by acting on the kidney. How? It increases the reabsorption of the water from the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct. So in absence of ADH, these DCT and collecting duct, they will be impermeable to water. So reabsorption of water does not occur in the renal tubules and dilute urine will be excreted. So this leads to loss of large amount of water through the urine. So that condition is diabetes insipidus. So what is the action of this ADH on the renal tubules? It increases the water resorption by regulating through the water channel proteins that are the aquaporin through B2 receptors. Second is the vasopressure action. ADH causes vasoconstrictor action. It causes the constriction of arteries in the all parts of body. So due to that, the pressure, the BP will increase. So due to vasoconstrictor, the blood pressure would increase. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is secreted by paraventricular nucleus. Oxytocin, it is secreted by paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus. So it is stored in the nerve endings of the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So when there is stimulus, that reaches the posterior pituitary from the hypothalamus, the oxytocin will be released into the blood. It is secreted in both in the males and females. In the females, it will act on mammary glands and the uterus. It causes ejection of milk from the mammary glands. Ducts of mammary glands are lined by the myoepithelial cells. It causes the contraction of the myoepithelial cells that will cause flow of the milk from the alveoli of the mammary glands to the exterior through the duct system. The oxytocin secretion it increases during the labor. It will enhance the labor by causing contraction of the uterus. The oxytocin also stimulates the release of prostaglandins in the placenta. In the males, the release of oxytocin increases during the ejaculation. It facilitates the release of sperm into the urethra by causing contraction of the smooth muscles. Oxytocin acts on mammary glands and uterus by G protein coupled oxytocin receptors. Now, coming to the disorders of the pituitary gland, the hyperactivity of the anterior pituitary that will cause excess growth of the body that will cause gangetism. The gangetism it is due to hypersecretion of the growth hormone in children or in pre-adult before the fusion of epiphysis of the bone with the shaft. Acromegaly it is a disorder that is characterized by enlargement, thickening and broadening of the bones. It occurs after the fusion of epiphysis with the shaft of the bone. So what are the signs symptoms of acromegaly? There will be gorilla face, prognathism, protrusion of the lower jaw, enlargement of the hand and feet, kyphosis, that is the extreme curvature of the upper back, the scalp, there will be thickening of scalp, overgrowth of the body hair, enlargement of the visceral organs like lungs, thymus, heart, liver and spleen. Visual disturbances can be seen. Cushing disease develops that is characterized by obesity. It develops as the base of it is due to the increase in the secretion of ACTH hormones that stimulates the adrenal cortex to release cortisol. Then the disorder is due to pituitary cause, it is known as Cushing disease, and when it is due to the adrenal cause, it is known as Cushing syndrome. What were the disease that results from the hypoactivity of the anterior pituitary? Dwarfism, that is characterized by stunted growth. Acromegalia, it is a disease in adults characterized by atrophy of the extremity of the bone. The acromegalia, it is associated with hypothyroidism. The person become lethargic, obese, loss of sexual activity. Third is the Simone disease. It is due to the hyposecretion of all the anterior pituitary hormones due to the atrophy of the degeneration of the anterior pituitary. So major feature of Simone disease is rapidly developing senile decay. A 30-year-old patient will look like a 60-year-old person. There is loss of hair over body and loss of teeth. Skin becomes dry and wrinkled. What are the diseases that occurs due to the? What are the syndromes that occurs due to the hyperactivity of the posterior pituitary? SIADH, syndrome of inappropriate hypersecretion of antidiuretic hormone, that is disease characterized by loss of sodium through urine due to the hypersecretion of ADH. So what you will see is loss of appetite, weight loss, headache, muscle stiffness, spasm, cramps, etc. Due to the hypoactivity of the posterior pituitary, what you will see is that this inferior. What you will see here is polyuria, increase in the large amount of dilute urine. polydipsia, intake of excess water, and dehydration. So this was all about the pituitary gland.